Good morning. This is Debbie Farrell at Color Everywhere with part 2 of Zendoodling. If you watched part 1, you know there is a lag problem that hopefully has been corrected here. I want to go over a few things that I talked about previously before taking up where I left off. Thank you for your patience on the first video. The information is all there. The sound is great, and you can pretty much follow along with the video, but there is a big lag. I appreciate those who have tried to help me get it figured out, and hopefully we have. Okay, so what we're doing is working on some projects similar to this. These are, I call them Zendoodling, and this is a set that I've started for myself. And I just wanted to share the process of how it is done. So as you can see, there's a lot of color and different shapes and designs. So this is mostly where we left off in the last video. I wanted to go over a couple of things that are on here before I go any farther. For instance, we talked about how things are layered. The letters are at the top, then there are designs underneath. Now, since the last program, I've gone through and started penciling in a few things so that I know what I want to do, and it doesn't take as long to decide while you're watching. This is where we left off. It is a circle design. We penciled in the lines, the concentric circle lines, and then I went in and I made petals using certain spots as a way to make things even around the circle. And the last thing I did was draw in the lines for the checkerboard. So it's going to be a checkerboard, leaves, petals, and a center. You can see where I drew all of these letters with stencils, and then went back and erased anything that was underneath so that it looked like it was layered. And the what some people call mandalas is basically what this is, but some of them I don't make like mandalas. Some I draw other items in, as you can see here. So that's what I'm going to go over today. Some of the things I've drawn in, and then hopefully get some things penciled and maybe even some color in here. Now, on my first one, on the first circle that I did here, I'm going to go ahead and erase my pencil marks because I don't need them anymore, and that'll kind of bring things up a little clearer on that. And as I said before, I'm using a black pearl eraser. I really like it. It does a good job, doesn't leave marks. Okay, so now that one is ready for color. Now, I came down and decided that I would put some loose flowers in this circle. I have a large piece of paper and a limited space to move it around. So you can see here, I'll raise it up a little. I've penciled in just some loose vines and some little flowers on there. I'm also going to add some leaves. And even though I have my crosshairs in my circle, I'm not going to need them in this case, so I will eventually erase those. And I decided in this circle to put tulips. So I went ahead and used my crosshairs, divided the areas where I want the tulips. I put an extra circle here just so that I would keep all my tulip tops the same size. It just is a guide, is all it is. So here's my tulip, here's the stem and the leaves, and then something else will go in the center. So I have to go around and draw that in each space, and then I have to go and draw the stems, and it's just a matter of trying to do it the same each time. And of course, the simpler the design, the easier it is to do that. So these are pretty simple, and these are, what I'm doing now is just a guide so that I can ink it in later. So that's what I'm doing all the way around, and on the air, like right here, you could see I can't see the whole thing, so I just draw what I can see. If it's easier for you to extend your line into what's underneath so that you can see what you're doing and know what to draw, then that's perfectly fine to do that. So I normally go around and do everything the same, because as I said once before, your hand gets used to those movements and it's easier to make things alike. So there's all my tulips in with their stems. I've got my flowers here, and then I decided in this circle to do it a little differently. I'm going to put flowers, but I'm going to put them going this way. Instead of standing up, they're going this way. So I used my main dividers from my original pencil line crosshairs, and my dividers from that. And then I also I just hand penciled in a divider in there. So this way I'll know where my flower goes and where my stem goes all the way around, just like I did over with the tulips. So this one is a little different. I'm going to do my stem and my leaf. So I'm going from this corner to here. That just gives me a good reference point. And just drawing a football shape, or whatever you want to call that shape. Same thing over here. Even though these are different sizes, I can do it the same way. And I will do that all the way around in each box. And then for the flower, I'm putting the center in the middle, kind of in the middle of the box. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 petals. So I can start by going to the corner, to this corner, to this corner, and to this corner, because I want to fill that whole little box. Then I can fill in with the other ones. And I should have 8 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. So there's that flower. And so you can see the little line divides each section. And I will just continue around and do that for each one. Here's my stem, leaf, leaf, center, petal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that just makes it look kind of uniform, and it doesn't matter what size the space is. I can always make it fit. Now here we go again, where, if I get this in the right place, here we go again. Here is a section right here where I need to put the stem and the leaf, but I can't see where my other corner is to know how to draw it. So I can either just pencil that in so I could find it, or guess at it. Most of the time I guess at it. Sometimes I had to pencil something in just so I could see. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, in a situation like this, you're not going to draw your leaf petal here so that it looks like the leaf. You don't want to draw the leaf here so that it looks like that's the whole leaf. You want it to look like it's under the letter. You can always erase what your guideline is. There. See? here's where the divider would be. Approximately, probably more like here. So I know I can, and again here. So you just have to imagine where it is or draw it in to give you an idea. So here would be my stem, my leaf. Here's my flower. I usually don't have too much of a problem visualizing it, but if you have a problem with it, just do it like this. Then you can always go back and erase what's not supposed to be showing. That's the beauty of using the pencil first. Okay, and that's basically, and I think I just messed something up there. I did. Got something off whack. Another reason to use a pencil, if you make as many mistakes as I do. Let's see here. This is a flower. This is a stem here. Here's the divider line. And here's the leaf. This is a flower. This is a flower. This is a flower. This is a flower. And that's a flower. So let's do the flowers. Do the flowers first. Well, there's Bella woofing at me again. I don't know what she could possibly need. She just ate. She's been out recently. So that means she just wants Mom's attention, I think. But she's going to have to wait a little bit, because I am determined to get this done this morning. Sometimes the things will look like they're a little wonky or skewed, but it looks okay in the end. Get that hand-drawn look in there. Almost done with this. I hope you get what I'm trying to show as far as how to fill the spaces. Alright, now I'm going to erase what shouldn't be there, obviously, inside these letters, because the letters are on top, so you shouldn't be able to see any of what's below through the letter, just around it. Alrighty, so there is the flowers on that one. Now I decided to go ahead and give myself an indication of what I wanted to go in the lines going across. Let me cut back a little bit for that. Figured out a couple of them anyway. And I also added some stencil work down at the bottom. This circle is going to have little pebbles in it. Go back up here so you can see it. It's going to have, you just draw little circles like pebbles right next to each other, whatever will fit in there. Then eventually I'll go back and all the little spaces in between will be filled in. So I'm not going to do that in pencil. I'll do that with ink when the time comes. This design, if you can see, this line here is going to come down like this. We can go ahead and draw that so you can see it. Makes it a little bit easier. Let's see if I turn my paper a little. So this is one section. And it has to go all the way through. Here it's not going to show. And the design in this section is starts out with lines. And this really works well if you have smaller, if the section is smaller at one end than the other. And as I'm going down, I'm looking to see, okay, what is going to show? Nothing's going to show there. Here, it's going to show here. Same thing. Most of this is covered with all of this. So I'm just going to put these lines down here. And I think everything else won't show. Then I'm going to do the cross lines. So it's going to make like a little grid. Here it shows here. It'll show here. Bella, please don't do that. She's sitting at the bottom of the basement stairs, looking up because she wants me to go upstairs with her, as far as I can figure. So I'm creating this grid. And then at each cross point of the grid, I'm going to put a little 4-petal flower. Now the thing I'm going to try to be aware of is over here it's smaller. So the petal will be smaller. And that will make it look like it's more dimensional. Quickly, and I'm probably not going to do all of them, just to give you an idea. You can put anything in here that you want. It's totally up to you. If you can't think of something, go online, go to Pinterest or somewhere like that, and just look up Zendoodling or doodling, and you will find more patterns than you can ever hope to use. I go look once in a while because I have a tendency to use the same ones over and over because I like them and I'm used to them. So every once in a while I try to get some fresh ideas. But this is the process for this pattern. You just go on at every cross and you put in, let's see, gotta be careful because that's my circle. I'm trying to get in my circle by accident. Okay, and then let's see, what's the rest of this pattern I have to think about? I've forgotten what it looks like. So once you do that, I'm gonna find my original because I've forgotten how it really looks. Going back into my book here and see if I can find it. What I've done on this section, we'll come back to this in a minute. What I've done on this section, I used a stencil. Just a small art stencil that I use in other things, and I've used it there to, let me get this out of the way. Here we go. just used a little stencil just in this line, and putting it down and drawing around the lines with my pencil, so it's easy to come back and line it out with a pen. Now, of course, you could have used the stencil with your pen if you wanted to. But I usually do it like this for some reason. I guess so that if I change my mind where something goes, or if I put it in the wrong place, I can erase it. Bella, come here. Come here. I have a basket here by my feet that she gets in. And that's what she's wanting, but she won't come over here where I can reach her. Come on. Come on. So basically, you could use any stencil in there. I could have put leaves or something like that. I could have drawn something in there myself. Just, it doesn't, there's no hard fast rule about how to do it. It's a simple process. There she is. Come on, get in your basket. There you go. It's a simple process that it takes time, and it's repetitive, but it's not that difficult. Okay, let's go back over here. This one is, it's little flowers, and then there's a circle in the center of each one, or a dot if you want to call it a dot. I have to stop and look because sometimes if I just keep going, I'm in the wrong spot. Okay, so this. I think there needs to be a line right here. There we go. What I missed. Put a little flower in there. There's a little dot. You barely see it. Now you do have to pay attention or you'll get something in the wrong place. Then with shading, it will look a little more shaped when it's finished. So back up here. So here's the design that's in this one. And you just go through and line it out. Now, on this one, I decided to put hearts. If I had a heart stencil, the only heart stencil I have is this one. And it's kind of large for this purpose. But if you had a heart stencil, you could use it and just go through there and line your hearts out with the stencil. But you can also do it by hand. And I just started it so that you would see. And the hearts aren't going to be perfect because this line gets closer together and farther apart. So I'm making the hearts fit from side to side and keeping the point in the middle. So I'm just basically doing that by eye so that this heart fits down. See that lobe, I guess you'd call it, comes out farther, but that's okay. It just gives it a little bit of interest. And I try, as it gets closer together, the hearts get smaller. And that gives it a little bit more interest. So this is basically just drawing these hearts stacked up one inside the other. And you would just do that the whole length of the border. I don't know what else to call it besides border. I guess I could call it row, a row of hearts. I'm doing this sideways, it's a little awkward. Let's go ahead and finish this. You could put anything in a stack like this. I could change the direction of the hearts back and forth to make them look like they're tumbling. I could put them this way and put them next to each other, or whatever you want to do. You could use something else. You could put I'm trying to think of something, shamrocks or Christmas bells or trees or just, you know, whatever. Now I came up with a little bit left over at the end. I'm just going to draw it like there's another one going that way. Okay? Let's look over at this one that we talked about earlier. I'm going to go ahead and ink this partly in so that you can see it better. Here's the vine. I better do the flower first so I don't run over things. I just sketched in a little flower in there. Could have been anything. I could have done another tulip or a big floppy daisy or something like that, but this is the one I picked. Okay, now I could see where I'm going. There's another flower. Now notice that everything isn't always contained in, not contained isn't the right word, but shown. And so this looks like it's going into behind the edge of the circle. That's what I'm trying to get at. Anytime you do something like that, it just gives it more dimension, makes it look more interesting. I use that word a lot, I guess. But that's, you know, that's what it does. It's not just flat and simple. Okay. And then we can just go in and put some leaves. Simple, simple, simple. You can get as complicated as you want. Sometimes I feel like getting complicated, and sometimes I don't. Just depends. So here's a leaf. I try not to make the same kind of leaves in the whole picture. I try to do different things. So I might do a long skinny one, or these little, I call them kindergarten leaves, because every kid in school, this is how they draw their leaves. But they can still look cute, you know. It doesn't mean, just because they're simple doesn't mean they can't look cute. And let's put a couple little curlicues. And maybe some dots. Just adds to it a little bit. Filler. Gotta have filler when you don't know what else to do. Okay, so there's that one. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. You can see how it really looks. There. Looks pretty good. So we've got those two done. In this row, I'm going to put little houses. This row is going to have, I call them pea pods, which are kind of fun to do. If you imagine, let me cut back a little bit here. If you imagine that this is a, oh, let's see, how do I explain it? Do you, here's an example. These right here. Okay. So they kind of look like they're inside, partially covered. So the way to do these is, and this is the kind of thing that you might want to use a pencil for. I don't always, but I will this time, just as an example. I'll try to be a good example. And close back up again. So I drew the lines so that they are fat, and then close, and then far, and then close. So they're sort of wavy, but that's what you need. You need a space, and then a skinny space, and then a big space, and a skinny space for this to work. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to even make more of a space with points at the end, like this. That's where my peas are going to go. My pods, whatever you want to call them. Same thing here. Here's another one. And one more here. Just depends on how many you want to mess with. I'm going to put lots on this one. Okay, that's probably enough. So, you get the idea? You want to have thick going to thin, thick going to thin, and then around it there are little channels looking things. Okay, now to put the peas or pearls or whatever you want to call them, I start in the middle, and here's my opening. Here's my edge, I guess I could call it. So if there was something in there round and part of it's covered, it's kind of like an eyeball. You're not going to see the whole thing. So you can actually draw it like this, if that helps you, so that it goes all the way out to the edge. But I don't always do that. Sometimes I just, because if you do that, when you get down to the little corners, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So you have to keep in mind it's got to be round. So instead of drawing it this way, I just start from where this one stops and just make like a little arc there, and then it gets smaller as it goes to the corner. Same thing over here. You don't make a circle, but you make it look like part of the ball is inside. So you line this part. the opening. And put in your circles. Now behind the circles, the little places where it like is the background of where the balls are is going to be colored in dark, so it creates sort of a shadowy type thing. See, I'm not drawing full circles, I'm just drawing partial circles. So then you get the idea that it's behind. Okay, I'm going to draw this. Here so you can see the whole thing. And it's just the same process on each one. I usually start with the biggest one, because that helps me see what size the next one should be. And then as it gets smaller, you just get smaller with the circles. Just make sure they're touching each other, and it's just not a ball, so that it looks like it's enclosed in the little pod or whatever. Whoops. I guess Bella decided to go to sleep over here in her basket. She just zonked out. So let's finish these up real quick, and then I think we're gonna get some color out. Put some color on here. I usually start with the different elements before I do any background, but not always. It just depends on what mood I'm in, I guess. Okay. I want to do a couple of these tulips so you can see those a little better, see how I made them. I start up at the top, go along the side, curve the bottom, go back up the other side, and it's sort of a little curve. Find my scrap paper here so I can show you. It's sort of really like this. It doesn't show up too much on here like that because it's small, but that's basically what it is. And then it's just go down half that way, go down half that way and stop, and then just make the little tulip part at the top. That's all it is. It's sort of like an upside down bell. Line, line, line. So that's what these are over here. And then the stem is just a line and the two petals, just like the other one that we did. Sometimes I'll make the stem part real long, and then I'll make real long petals, so it would look like this. The stem would be long, and the petals would be real long. which is more like a tulip. So in this case, I didn't draw it that way. I could have gone all the way down to the center. If I hadn't already done that one, I might have done it, but I'm too late now. Whoops. So here's the petals. I mean the flower in the center. And as you can see, it's pretty repetitive. That's what makes it relaxing to me. Once I've decided what I'm doing, it's just like do the same thing over and over. You don't have to think too much about it, especially if you've already lined it out with a pencil. Just follow what you've already done. But you have to think a little bit more about it if you're freehanding it with the pen. Now obviously, before it's over with, I will have these all lined out and ready to color. But because it's so repetitive and it takes a lot of time, I just wanted to show you the beginning parts and maybe color a few of what's there, and then probably off camera I will do some others and come back and show you those next time. So here we are back over here to our little flowers, and here's our stem. And the center. Oh, sorry. Sneezing. That was a pretty mild one. Usually I sneeze 8 or 10 times in a row. Still cold here in Missouri, southeast Missouri. But boy, am I getting spring fever. I ride a 3-wheel motorcycle. A Spider is what it's called. It has 2 wheels in the front, 1 in the back. And my husband rides a big Goldwing motorcycle. And he got his out yesterday and took it to get gas, put gas in it and checked the tires and everything. And he asked me if I wanted to go with him, and boy, I was tempted. But it was still just a little too chilly for me. He has a big riding suit that he can put on. He has warmers, like gloves that are heated, and chaps and all that kind of stuff. I don't have all that. So I decided not to go. But boy, am I wanting to. Just that time of year. I can't walk very far, but if I'm on my motorcycle, I can certainly go pretty much where I want to go. So I like it. I've been riding it for about 2 years now. Well, I guess it's maybe 3. Before that, he traded out a Goldwing to buy the Spider so that we could ride together, because I couldn't ride with him on the Goldwing. I just wasn't comfortable. And so we did it that way for, I don't know, maybe a year. And then he decided that he felt it was safe enough for me to ride it by myself. The farthest I've gone so far is to Canada. Last summer we went with a group of friends to Canada. There were 6 of us all together. And that was pretty neat. I made it. I did good. And we spent 3 days in the pouring rain, so I feel like I was, did okay. I've ridden to Arkansas. So I don't know what we're doing this summer, but I'm sure we'll be going to Gatlinburg at some point. Okay, so that's kind of what those little flowers look like. Let me erase a little bit of that. You can see. Now it's a little confusing to the eye right now. If you look at this, because it's like, okay, now where does it start and where does it stop? But once I erase the guidelines, it helps. And then once the color gets in there, that will help quite a bit too. You'll be able to see the whole flower. Okay, now one thing I did do, I came down and, let me see if you can see. I came down here and I used another stencil. Everything's hiding from me. Here it is. I used another stencil, which is, I don't know if you can see that. It's a honeycomb type stencil. And I just laid it down here and drew it out. Every place that would be behind the letters. So I want to draw a few of those in. And once again, I'm using Pitt. No idea if you use that. Pitt Artist Pens by Faber-Castell with India ink. I use the India ink because later when I get ready to, I'm going to put this back on here because I think it would be easier on these little designs. And get it lined up. Sorry. Now it's going to make it harder for me to see what I'm doing. But I think I can do it. It makes it easier later when I am using the alcohol ink markers. They don't run with the Pitt pens because the India ink is waterproof. And once it's dry, once the ink is dry, it works really well. I'm just drawing around this stencil. You can see that. Yeah. So sometimes when I'm working on one of these drawings, I want to put a design in. Because there's so many different things going on, sometimes I forget what I wanted to put somewhere, what my original idea was. So that's why I'll go in and I'll just, do a little bit of something. And then when I'm ready to work on it, I go back and actually draw it in. And that way I remember, because I don't always get to work on something from start to finish, hardly ever. I like the process of deciding as I go for most things. In my beadwork, I usually start out with color beads that I pull out all the beads that are colors that I want to work with on the project. So let's say, for instance, something was pink and I wanted it to have black accents. I'll pull out all my pink focal beads, bigger pieces that I want to do something around, because I do a lot of bead embroidery, which usually means that the whole piece is filled in with beads. So I'll pick out the pink and I'll pick out some black and I'll have it all laying there before me. I usually know if I'm going to make a bracelet or a necklace or earrings or the type of beading I'm going to do, and but I don't always know what the design is going to be. I don't have to look at a pattern, so I can watch TV or talk to someone or whatever, listen to a book, and I don't have to keep referring back to a pattern because I'm just gonna, do it as I go. Sometimes it doesn't end up as what I thought it was going to end up as. Sometimes it ends up as a necklace instead of a bracelet or vice versa. But, that's the way I like to do it. It's more spontaneous. Even if I make a mistake and work around the mistake, it makes it interesting. So that's the way I like to work, just like I am here, deciding what you're going to do as you go. I usually have a general idea. Like with this one, I started out knowing where the words were going to go, that I wanted to have the lines at the rows at the top. If I'd done anything different on this one, I would have put a big circle right here, I think. But I like it the way it is. So I think I'll put just a little bit more of this over here. I didn't have it drawn in, but so now I have to be really careful not to draw into my letters because I'm using a pen. So I'm trying to avoid drawing in the wrong place. Okay, let's put a couple down here just to kind of balance out the ones I have on the other side and to fill in this area because it looked a little blank. Remember I said in the last program, I'm looking for busy and colorful. Now I could take advantage of these little spaces and draw something cute inside a couple of them, like a little flower or something real simple. That would be cute. I might do that. That's probably enough. Okay, I just sort of carried it through. And I don't know if I need it anyplace else. Maybe just a little bit right here. Probably enough. It just gives a little indication. I like that. Just a little bit more there. Oops. Around this E. Get down here to the end of the paper. Yeah, and that just sort of close your eye through there. Up here you've got plenty of movement. But down here it was pretty blank, so that pulls the eye through. And I think I'm going to go ahead real quick and finish these flowers. It's real easy, like right here where my petals haven't been erased. It's real easy. You just get going with your lining and to just go right over that line. It's very easy to do that. So that really does need to be erased, so I don't do that by accident. It's always good to erase what shouldn't be there. That way you won't draw it. Your eye will stop at that line, and so will your pen. Now these flowers, remember, they're going to be divided by a line. So they'll each be their own little cell. One thing I like about having the pencil line is it's a guide. I don't have to do it that way if I don't want to. I can change it because it's just a pencil and it's just a guide. But it helps keep you on track with what you're doing. Let's draw these other lines in while I'm thinking about it. Lower line. Okay. Get this last one. I was thinking last night, watching some YouTube videos, coloring videos. I haven't colored in like a couple of months because I've been so busy trying to get this streaming set up and working on my craft space that I haven't colored. And I moved all my coloring stuff downstairs. I used to color when I was watching TV. And I got a new chair and it's hard to color in it for some reason. It's a recliner and it's not very comfortable to color in. Plus I got the puppy and she's always up on me, so that makes it difficult. So I haven't colored, so I've been wanting to do some coloring. YouTube makes me want to do everything. Of course I do want to anyway, but YouTube really makes me want to. Alright, I think I'm going to make this space black. And I'm going to find my pen. The right pen, let's see. This is a size B. And you see it has a brush point. This one looks a little ragged, but we're going to try to use it anyway. So I'm just going to use it to fill in the majority of the space. And let me find a different one. This one's really hard to do. I just find it easier to use the ink to fill in a line this size than it is to paint it. But you can do either one. Sometimes I use the paint pens. I haven't had these paint pens very long. They're Posca paint pens, or the ones I've been using lately. And I got them last year to use on a project I had to do. One of the trips we went on with our motorcycles, I have a little trailer that I pull behind my bike, so that if we're going to be gone for a few days, you know, it's easier just to throw your stuff in there than have to pack it in the bike really tightly, and it's just a lot easier. And so we were almost home from our week-long trip. No incidents at all. We stopped at a stop sign. I was in front, my husband behind me, and the sun was getting low, and I have a hard time seeing sometimes. I have to really turn my head far to be able to see because I had some surgery on my neck. So, you know, I couldn't see because of the sun and my bifocals. I told you I'm old. So I sort of raised up in my seat so I could see better and see if anything was coming on the road. And he thought I was taking off. So he took off and rammed into the back of my trailer. Made 2 holes in it. Didn't hurt his bike, but the trailer's fiberglass, so it made 2 little holes back by the lights. So it needed repaired, and I decided that I would do some painting on it. So my husband and my brother-in-law fixed the holes, and I did some painting on it. And I had been watching some YouTubes with the guy who used the pens a lot. And it was pretty cool. He did motorcycles and skateboards, and he did a lot of what do you call them, surfboards with these pens. And I had never thought that you could use them that way because I didn't have much experience. I'd used the white ones, but not any others. So I ordered 2 or 3 sets of pens in different sizes, and I used them quite a bit with the airbrush. I also used an airbrush. I used them quite a bit on repairing, well, putting the picture on the back of my trailer. So I have a bunch of those. So I've been using them in some of my other artwork, and I like them. So I may be using some on this one. We'll see, probably. I've had my alcohol markers for several years now, and some of them are starting to get pretty dry. Some I have refills for, but not all of them. So I have to decide. Some of them I will refill, but some of the others, they were so cheap that I may just buy some more. But I'm just going to use what I have for now. I'm trying not to buy any new supplies for a while until I get my space all lined out. I'm just going through here and picking up some of the lines that I haven't inked yet. Alright, let's see. I'm going to change pens to a different size. That was an F. I'm going to go back to an S, and we're going to do some of these circles. Once in a while I go to the edge and just let the circle go out of the edge instead of just being on the edge, like here. I'll do another one over here. So it kind of looks like it's filling in. There's a little bitty one. And basically that's all it is. You just do circles next to each other and fill in those spaces with whatever size circle will fit. If you wanted these to be perfectly round, you could use a stencil. These circles aren't necessarily my favorite thing to do because they're a little fiddly. You got to go back and fill in all the little bitty spaces, and then the circles get out of shape. And but they're kind of different. I think I'm just going to put them in this section of this row. And then put something else in the other sections. Once again, adds more interest, something different to look at. And there's not a shortage of patterns to use. Okay, so there's that one. That part of that one. I'm wondering if I just want to make this a ring, and these would show underneath, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So here we go. Here's the line. It's going here. Where's it coming out? Here. Okay, so we're going like this. Then we would have this. And gotta think about this. Okay, this one's going up here. Continue up here, go hit here. I should be doing this in pencil, but that's okay. And this one will be there. Okay. See what I'm doing? I'm just continuing this design. I just made a mistake right there. Let's see. I should not have put that line in there. So let me see what I got that I can fix it with. Excuse me. I'm just using this Posca pen to go over this. Now when I go back and go to put color in here, if I use an alcohol ink marker over that line I just covered up with the Posca, it's going to show up lighter. So I will probably use maybe a paint pen or disguise it some other way in there, because my line should have gone like this. So this line would have ended here. So I'll go back and fill these in. Remember that pattern's going to show up behind there. Here's the center. Here's the center. Yeah, I don't think that's right either. Okay, fix it, fix it. Story of my life. But that's alright. Okay, now where am I? Here's this line's coming up through here. I don't think this belongs here either. Wow. Alright, that's what happens. Here we go. Let's see now. Find the real line. Sometimes you just gotta stop and figure it out. Okay, there's that one. That's what we'll do. It's too confusing. Okay, here's the first one. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. One, two, three, four. Nope, still not right. Okay, start again. Okay. so that one, that one, that one, and so I'll get it fixed. Sometimes that's just what you gotta do. Just think about it and fix it. Alright, now hopefully this is gonna be fairly right. Sorry about that. Last few here, and hopefully that will be the corrections done. Now, grief. Keep putting that in there and it doesn't belong because it's behind. Alright. I'm going to leave that be for now. Okay, so what will we put in here? Clean this up a little bit, and then we'll get some color on it. Erase all these lines. I had to have to see what I was doing. And that just goes to show you that you make mistakes. Even when you draw in the guidelines, you still make mistakes. Nothing is that important that you can't change it or fix it. You know, I was talking about wishing I'd put a circle, a big circle up here. I could still do that by drawing it on another paper and attaching it, gluing it on there, and it would still pretty much look like it was part, you know, it had been on there all along. I could do that still. Let's put some color on here. I'm tired of drawing for now because I got irritated at the mistake. Let's start over here with these little flowers. They're pretty simple. Making sure that all my pencil is erased, because once I put the alcohol markers on there, the pencil usually does not erase. Same thing here. Get rid of that. Alright, and I'm going to close up a little bit here. Just turn this over where you can see it. Everything else out of the way. And I don't have anything under here, so I'm going to get some scrap paper to go under there to give me a little bit of cushion while I'm coloring. There we go. Let's see, we're going to try some reds and some greens. I like to use contrasting colors so that they show up more. So I have a couple of different brands of alcohol ink markers. I have Spectrum Noir and Copic Sketch. Whoops, I lost myself here. Copic Sketch. And I also have the Fine Touch. I like them all, and I use them all together. So, alright, let's start with the leaves. Let's start with, hopefully there's ink in here. Let's make some little green leaves. I thought when I first bought them that the Copics were my favorite. But for what I do, they're not necessarily the best choice. They have beautiful colors. I love the way they blend. But on these pieces, there's not as much blending as there would be, say, on a portrait or something that you're doing. I have a lot of small areas that I have to fill in. And the brush point, it's not stiff enough sometimes to do a good job, and it's easier to bleed out of the lines. And that's another thing. Depending on what kind of paper you use, all of these markers, you have to pay attention to how hard you're pressing, how close you are going to the edge, because they do bleed out a little bit. That's just the nature of the alcohol in them. So, while we're at it, we'll go ahead and use this green on some of these leaves. Let me see, is that all erased? Yes, it is. So we'll do 2 at once here. I'm just going to do half of this one. Well, actually, I'll just do the whole one. The other thing I like about alcohol markers is they leave such a nice finish. I mean, you know, it's flat. It's not bumpy like paint can be. And if you want to go back and do some more line drawing over top of it, it's very easy to do. And the pit pens, you can go back over and they don't usually bleed or anything over top of the alcohol ink markers. So I like that because sometimes I go back and put in extra things. Alright. Now, sometimes sometimes I repeat the same color in other parts of the page. So I'm going to come over here. That just kind of draws your eye across and kind of makes it blend in together. I'm trying to get this where you can see it. And come over here, and I see some pencil lines, so I better get rid of those. Okay. Anyway, I repeat colors across the page. So you don't always need 50 different colors. I like to always have a light, a medium, and a dark in the same color. And that's, you can get away with just that. You can get away with just two colors, a light and a dark. And I'm sorry, two shades, a light and a dark in each color. But it's nicer if you have three. And it's even nicer if you have more to pick from, so that, you know, you have a little bit of variety. But you can do a lot with just a few colors. Don't ever think you have to break the bank to have fun doing artwork. And don't think you always have to buy the most popular brand or the latest brand that everybody's talking about. You don't. I was very pleased with the Fine Touch markers that I bought. We bought I think we got them for about $1 a pen, and they were, my daughter found them online, and they were like 120 or something like that pens for about $120. And we both had a few Copics because that's what we thought we wanted to start getting, but they're very expensive, and we didn't want to, like I said, break the bank with them. So we decided to go a little bit easier and just get those. So we divided them between us, and both had more colors than we could possibly, you know, use. I used a lot of them, but you don't have to have 10 of each color to enjoy what you're doing and come out with a nice product. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and use this darker green here. Now, see, this is Spectrum. The point on it is much harder, even though it's like a bullet point. The other one's like a brush. This is more like a bullet, but it has enough give to where, you know, it does a nice job. But I'm, you know, the easiest way for me to explain it is when I'm on the edge, I go kind of quick. I don't leave it sit there, because the longer it sits there, the more it's going to spread. So I kind of try to keep it a little away from the edge, enough to, and you get used to how much you need to do, but so that it has a little bit of room to spread without going into the next color. The line's not going to keep it from going into the next color, obviously. So I'm using a real light touch when I'm going next to where the other color is, and then just filling it in. Okay. I'm just putting a little bit of color on these, and I can take my lighter color and blend it out a little bit. Give it a little bit of shading. You can also go in with colored pencils and do the same thing. See how that gives it a little bit of, see if you can see that. Gives a little bit of shading in there. It's a little space, so it doesn't take much. Or you don't have room for much, is what I mean. So I'm just putting a dot on each one of these, and using my lighter color that I've already had on there just to kind of blend it out a little bit. And all it's doing is the alcohol is picking up that color and spreading it so that it looks blended. That's basically what happens. if this circle were bigger and these leaves were bigger, I probably would do some veining in the leaves to make them look really nice. So there is the leaves on there, pretty much done. Now let's take, I'm going to make these flowers red. And once again, here's Spectrum Noir. And you could tell I use this red a lot because it's just about shot, apparently. Let me pick a different one. I use red a lot. Sometimes red I'll use my Sharpies. I like red and yellow in Sharpies. They're very nice. And they work the same way. And they're cheaper. So I don't mind if I use them up because I do use a lot of red. I like red. Red's happy. To me. Might be angry to some people, I don't know, but to me it's, see, this one's about shot too. Might have to pull out the Sharpie. Let's see here. Let's see how my Copic is. Yeah, it's juicy. I have some Copic refills. Very, very easy to refill. And a stamp store was, excuse me, was going out of business, and I went in and bought all the refills I could find that they had because they were very marked down very cheaply. Even the ones they had that they'd used in the store, like maybe just were half full or, you know, whatever, weren't new. I bought those too for $1 or $2. And so I have a drawer full of refills. Some of them are duplicates, not too many. But they're usable. I can use them in any of these markers, actually. So the ones that I didn't already have a pin for, excuse me, that I didn't have a Copic pin for, I just use one of the other pins because I had so many different colors from the cheap set. And I'm just going to find a darker, see if this one's going to, yeah, darker red, put some shading in there. Now I don't know if you can see that or not, but that has bled out a little bit because this marker is very juicy. I really like the Spectrums a lot. I probably have to say they're my favorite for what I do. Because they seem to be nice and juicy. They have a stiffer point. They still have the double end. Big double end. But I do like them. Now I'm going to go back to this one. And I like to use the chisel point when I'm blending, because like I said, it has more, it's stiffer. Okay. I'm going to put a background in that circle, see what I can find that's still juicy. I think I'm going to use a, I'll be surprised if this one's got any juice left in it. It's got some. Okay, so I'm going to do the background. The secret to not having any streaks is to keep it wet. As long as it's wet, as long as you don't let the edge dry, you still got a good. See, I'm kind of going pretty fast on this to keep it from looking streaked. I hope you can hear me. When I get concentrating on things, my voice gets lower and lower and lower until I find I'm whispering to myself. I worked as a secretary for, goodness, from the time I got out of high school, pretty much, in some type of secretarial or clerical position. The last 25 years, I worked as an executive secretary and an office manager. And I was taught that when you answer the phone, you immediately lower your voice and you put a smile on your face, because I worked in customer service a lot. And or had to deal with people outside the company a lot. Even with those inside the company, if you're talking to a vice president or whatever, you want to be pleasant. So I was taught to lower your voice and put a smile on your face, and that makes you sound a lot more friendly, a lot more professional. Nobody wants to hear somebody answer the phone like this, because it automatically gets them more excited than they are to start with. So I had a friend of mine call the office one day, and I picked it up just as I usually do and lowered my voice and when I answered, and all of a sudden it was quiet, and he said who it was, and he said, "Wow," he said, "you sound just like one of those 900 phone call people." I thought it was so funny. I said, "Well, how would you know?" Because 900 numbers or the phone porno or whatever it is. And so I've always teased him about that ever since then. I said, I always lower my voice when I'm on the phone. So I have a tendency to get loud and boisterous when I get excited anyway, so. But, okay, so now there's a background for that. Now I'm gonna shade that background also so that it looks a little dimensional. So I've got these two colors, one's medium, one's darker, and I'm going to use the darker one. I'm going to use the brush this time just to sort of go around the edge. I'm going around the edge of that one because it's supposed to be behind it. Just like that much. I'll take the same color I used already. I'm going to use my chisel tip and just sort of go over that, blend it out a little bit. Now I also could have just used this color and put several more layers, but it will only layer out so far, and then you need a darker color. So there you go. And that just kind of gives it a little bit more dimension. So that circle, I would say, is pretty done. I might go back later and put in some white dots. I guess I could do that now. I have my pen right here. I'm just going to use my Posca pen. Does that make you dizzy? And just go in here, and I have these little dots I put in, so I'm just going to there. Adds a little bit. Okay. Now, there's one done, believe it or not. So let's go. I'm going to turn this around. Let's come over here. Now, realize I still have my letters here. I haven't done anything to them yet. So at some point, I want to decide what they're going to have. Are they going to be solid? Are they going to be filled with little things like these letters are? See, they all have different little things in them. Cute little things. So I still have that to decide yet. Let's work on these flowers since we're doing flowers. I think we're going to do those with the yellow. I'm Make sure that all my pencil mark is gone. I always double check because I always miss some. Until you're concentrating on that area, it's very easy to miss some. And this is I think we're going to use these two colors. Buttercup Yellow and Honey. Let's see, that one looks a little dirty. I don't think that's dark enough. Try the next one. Yeah, that's better. This is cream. I like that. And I'm just filling these in. I'm going to do them in the same way that I did the others, just fill in the light color. One of the reasons I don't get terribly detailed on some of this is because they're already so busy. It's already so busy. I don't want to make it too much for the eye to take in. So you just kind of have to pick and choose where you want to put things. It's great to have little surprises in there sometimes. I like, oh, I think it's in the book. I'll have to pull it out in a minute. Let me see, I want to show you this. I can remember what page it's on. Let's see. Looking in my art journal. Trying to show you an example of something here. If I can find it. Here it is. If you see at the top of this page, let me close up that. See this little bitty area that I had left up here? Wasn't really much of an area to do anything with, but I really like it because I took this little row and I just split it into little sections and just put the hint of a design in each section. I love these little balloons right here. That's just a fun thing that you don't, when you look at the overall picture, you don't notice it too much. But when you start looking closer, you see, oh, there's some little balloons there, and there's some little flowers. And that's the kind of thing that's fun to put in. Little things that are surprises. So here, back to our flower. Put in some shading. And I'm just touching this. I'm not really drawing anything. I'm just touching close to the center or any place I think it should be shaded. And it's not anything big and fancy. It's just little touches. Then I'll blend out with the other one. And use my chisel. And I just do one layer of the light color, and then this makes the second layer when I go back and blend it in so that it kind of fills in any empty spots that didn't get covered real well. That one's kind of wonky there. I don't know what happened to that. is a slow process. Especially when you get confused and get your lines wrong and you have to sit there and look at that for a while. I'm going to put black centers on these flowers, so I'm just going to take my black pit pen, kind of even them out as I'm going, because they got a little crooked when I was putting the petals on. So now I can just straighten that out. Okay. Now, I can stop here and decide, okay, now what do I want for a background color? What do I want in here? Or I can just go on to something else and come back to that later. So right now, let's do some of these pea pods so you can see how to do those. Erasing lines because I'm going to be coloring on them. And I don't need those lines anymore. Anyway. Whoops. Let's see. Let's do this one right here. Now what I'm going to do first is take my pit pen and fill in the black spaces. Whatever's not the P. And that will give me even more of an indication of the roundness of it and the shape. The shape will pop out a little bit more. Okay, so there's the P in there. Peas. Now, I'm gonna use, I'm gonna get some pink and orange in here, I think. Let's see if these markers are working. That one's a little dry. These haven't been used in a while. They've been packed away, and I really haven't gone through them to check them and see what condition they were in. Apparently some of them aren't in very good condition. Because they're drying out. Okay, let's see. This one will work. Okay, so I'm going to use this. Here's the two colors I'm using together. I'm going to use the oranger color for the base. Okay, and I'm going to use the darker one for the edges, because that'll make it look like it's inside the pod, like it's shadowed on the edge. And then of course around the edge of the P, make it look rounder. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my orange again. And actually I could even go a little brighter. This was the dark yellow we used over here on this flower. So I think I'm going to try this first to do some blending with. And it's not going to blend a lot. It's pretty dry. I need to do a big inventory on these pens apparently. else have I got here? I have a big chart that shows me all the colors of the pens that I normally keep out with me, but I didn't get it out before we started. I'm just using this now. I'm leaving a clear spot in the middle, not white, but clear. Not clear. The main color. I'm leaving the spot in the center to help it look more rounded. Okay. And you just use your colors to, you know, blend in however you want. Then once this is dry, totally dry, I can go back with my Posca and put in some highlights. Now what I like to do on the outside of the pods, this part, is just draw little lines. And I'm using a extra small pen this time. I'm just making lines so that it kind of looks like a bark or tree rings or whatever, just on here, to give that a little bit of interest. See, like everything you add, every little thing you add makes a difference. Makes it a little bit more interesting. It's like, oh, look at that. That looks pretty cool. And it looks complicated, but you can see it's really not. I'm just drawing little lines in here. Just gives a little idea of movement that's in the pods here. Okay? I made a little mistake there when I crossed that over, but I'm just going to use it to sort of hide it. I didn't have that in the picture, I'm sorry. So now the peas are dry enough where I can go back with the Posca pen and put in a little bit of highlight. And the way I do it is I just, to one side or the other, I just sort of put in a little crescent and dab it with my finger. And that kind of diffuses it enough to make it look and if you don't think it's enough, you can always go back and put some more. And there you've got some pea pods. Well, I call them pea pods. See? Now I'm going to make the outsides, I'm going to make it a brown color. And I'll be surprised if this one works because I use it a lot. Let's see. Oh, yep, it does. Okay. So I'm just going to color this in. And I'm using a light touch. I'm not holding my pen there forever because all it's going to do is just soak up all the juice. You see on the back, it does go through. You can see where I've colored more than here. So this is just one pass. This is like got 3 colors on it. So it does go through, so you need to protect your surface underneath. Some pencil marks. Okay. Let's see if I can find a little bit darker brown. Oh, that's too green. Let's see. Once again, need some contrast. Contrast makes things more exciting. If everything was just the same intensity of color, it's not nearly as nice to look at or fun to look at. There's a time and a place for pale, soft colors, just as there's a time and a place for bold ones. And I like both, but I have a tendency to go towards the bold side more often than the lighter side. I'm on the dark side, not the light side. As you can see, everything I've done on this so far has been very, very basic. But when it gets done, it's going to be a nice, exciting little picture. That was fun to do, and people find interesting to look at. Most people. Might not be some people's thing. But you can always leave a spot to add some verbiage, a saying that you like, or just about anything, really. I often use scriptures. Because that's what I like. But you can put anything you want. Okay, so there's that. I didn't finish some of these. So that's how you do the beads and the see, I can go back over here and add some more lines. Not whole lines or whatever. I have a feeling I'm going to end up having to get a microphone that I wear by my mouth, because every so often I realize how quiet I'm talking. So that's the idea on this one. Now we didn't do anything to the checkerboard. Bring it back up. Okay, we didn't do anything to the checkerboard yet. It's a process. It takes a little while. This is what I normally do. I put a dot in every other one. So that I know which one gets filled in with this color. Now this time I'm going to do black. What am I going to do? I think I'm going to do black and purple on this checkerboard. Now I came out even that time. Every other one. If I hadn't come out even, I would have had to make an adjustment somewhere. And I knew that before I inked it. I don't think I mentioned that, but before I inked it, I knew I had the right amount of blocks so that they would come out even to make a checkerboard. So I'm just going around. Because you'd be surprised how easy this is to color in the wrong box. So this way, it's already set. I don't have to think about it. I can just go and draw them in. What I normally do is I'll do one direction and not worry about the ends, and do that all the way around. So that I get each side filled in, like here. Then I'll go in the other direction and do the other sides. Then when all the color is in on the checkerboard, I go back and I redraw the separating lines. It just makes a much neater design. The reason I do it this way, if you see right here, where I tried to go all the way to the edge, let me bring that up, maybe you can see it better. Right here, I tried to go all the way to the edge of that line, and it bled over. So it's better to just go do the straight part on the side, and then turn it and do the straight part on the side again. And I only do as much as I can with this big bullet, or well, it's really like a brush pen, and then I go back with the little ones and fill in where it needs filled in. This doesn't take too long to do these, but they're little time stealers. If I were doing this with the smaller pen point, it would take a lot longer. But I just wanted to give you the idea. I'm not going to do the whole thing. See, now I can go back with a smaller pen and get the edges that I missed. And it looks a little neater than doing it the other way. And once again, I turn my paper so that I'm drawing in the most comfortable, most natural direction for me. You might not have to do that, but it works for me. So you go around and just take care of all these spots, and you can go back and work on your colored spots. Let's see. So this one's going to be purple. Now the purple's not as difficult because the black sort of hides it, so I can just go for it. Okay, so there you would do that all the way around. And on this particular one, on the leaves, and again I'm going to go back to my extra small pen, and I'm going to do some drawing on the leaves. I'm just going to add some things. I think, yeah. Now I could have just left this without doing anything else to it, and it would have been fine. But I think it adds to the leaves, so I'm doing it. And I'm using the smaller pen because the line is tinier and I can get more in there and it looks neater. Okay, there's that. I think we'll make this flower pink if I can find a pink that works. There's a bright pink. What I usually do is, as I'm using these pens, once I finish this flower, I'll lay this pen here on the table besides my work where I'm working, and that way I know if I want to have some pink somewhere else in the picture, I can use the same pink, and that will just make it come together. When I'm color book coloring, I try not to use a huge different amount of colors on a page. Sometimes the picture calls for it, really, but most of the time you can do a whole page with only like maybe 5 colors or so. I mean color families, so like you still want a light and a dark and what have you, but as far as using the whole rainbow, you don't necessarily have to do that. So let's see, I'm going to use a little bit of this orange just for this flower. I'm just flicking it out. Like that. Now, I still have this little background color to fill in, and I think I'm just going to use this orange. So now I've got contrasting colors. The purple and the orange are contrasting colors. I have the 2 shades of green, which contrast. Then I have the pink and the orange. It doesn't contrast as much, but you can definitely see a difference. So it makes it look a little bit more dimensional. There's so much more I could do to this. I could go around this edge here and even close to the leaves and shade in there. But that's a pretty small space, so I probably won't do that. I could add veins to the darker green leaves, which you may not be able to see on the camera, but you would be able to see if you were looking at it in person. So that one's going to be a nice contrast. The purple's going to be a nice contrast with the turquoise color there. So we've got some orange going on up here. Here's some orange. We'll probably do something down here in orange. The dog is dreaming. She's making little noises in her sleep. She dreams a lot. Okay, so I think I want to make these little flowers red. Let's see, where was the red that worked? This one, I think. Yep. So I'm gonna go. Going to do a little bit of this, and then we're going to stop and continue on in part 3. I hope that this video comes out a lot better than the past one. Otherwise, I've just wasted 2 hours. But that's the only way learn, I guess. Just figure it out. I'm just finding all these little, oops, flowers. I'm a little nervous about doing these in here because I messed them up before. Now I think I'm going to do pink in here. I don't really want this bright pink. I wanted a duller pink. Let's see what I can find. That's really dull because it's totally dried up. This one doesn't feel like it has anything. Nope. Gee. Might have to use this pink. Yep. Okay. So, here we go. Now I probably should have did the pink first and then put the red over top of it, but that's okay. I notice that looks a little streaky, so if I just go back over it and keep it wet until I have all the streaks out, then it will be fine. I don't want to be scrubbing over the red too much because it'll cause it to blend more than I want. Let's see. Alright, here we go. Let's find where we're at here. Here. This is going to be a little tricky here because I have those mistakes covered over with, see what happens with the and here is now I actually have something, a pink Posca pen that's close to this color. So who knows, I might end up using it to sort of touch up with. But that's what happens when you go over the Posca. Sometimes it's a very good thing, but sometimes it isn't. It's not that noticeable, but I know it's there. Starting to get a traffic jam over here on the table full of stuff. Pens and markers. Now you can really start to get a sense of how things are layered on top of each other. I'm going to use this same color to darken it up a little bit, give it a little bit of shading in the darker areas. Okay, let's make sure I'm doing this right. Okay. All right. Now, okay. Just shading these edges a little bit to give it a little bit of dimension here. I'm putting down the darker color and then shading it out with the base pink color. Now I like to have my base color down first instead of just starting with the dark color on the edge, because I think it blends better that way. Someone else might do it differently, but that's how I do it. Sort of pushes it back, shading around everything sort of pushes the underlayer down farther so it looks even more separated. And once again, I'm turning my paper as usual to make it easier for me to work. Just sort of scrubbing that to get the color to bleed out a little bit. Basically the process. Hope you can see the difference. See the dark edge? Let me switch it. Now, see the dark edges? Like here. I'm doing it quickly before the darker color has time to totally dry, and it allows me to activate it with the other color so that it will bleed out a little bit and blend. It's not difficult, just takes time. I'm really scrubbing. You can probably hear it. Another thing you can do is lay down another layer of the base color right where you're going to put the shading, and then put the shading over top of it. Excuse me. That works too. This is just as easy. You just want to get a little bit of contrast to make it look more dimensional. Okay. There we go. I think that'll do it. Oh, that one's a little harsh. back and darken my little flowers here so they pop out a little better. There I go again, whispering to myself. Alright. Now I'm going to give them some little centers, little flowers, some centers. And then we're going to call it the end for this time. Okay. All right. So we've done a little bit. The next time we'll finish the circles. We'll finish these borders. While I'm away from the camera, I will probably finish this checkerboard, add a few more designs in here. Put my little houses. This is going to be a row of little houses in there. And I haven't decided what this is yet. So, thank you for staying. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and please give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and share it with your other watchers. See you next time. Bye.